Favorite tools used to invade your home is called a knock and talk or a tap and rap. Knock and talks and tap and raps lean on the idea that it is not illegal for the police to knock on your door and discuss you possibly being involved in criminal activity. In other words, it is not illegal for the police to knock on your door and ask you if you're growing or are in possession of marijuana.
When I heard the knock on the door, I glanced out the window and I saw that there was some men outside. I didn't really get a good picture of their badges or anything, but I did see that there were men outside. When I had my son in my arms and he was crying and I know he's making noise, so I figured I had to open the door.
Knock and talks are usually triggered by an anonymous tip, a tip from somebody seeking revenge, suspicious traffic coming in and out of your house, or some other reasonable suspicion. Police cannot obtain a search warrant without probable cause. So when they only have reasonable suspicions, they show up at your door to do a knock and talk to manipulate their way into your home.
But when I first opened the door, they said that they needed to talk to me. And when I told them that they needed to get a warrant, they started to show their guns, and a couple of them seemed to be taking them out. And at that point, they first just asked if they could come in. Then when I said no, they said they smelled marijuana, which I knew that wasn't true because I got rosemary and sage right outside my door. There's no way they could have smelled anything. When I was trying to keep the door, like to barely talk to them, one of them breached the door, made sure that that I couldn't close it or do anything, and pretty much they forced me to go ahead and let them in. Once they got in, I mean,
I have made dozens of arrests, including a 230-pound marijuana seizure using the knock and talk technique. Never Get Busted constantly gets emails from citizens complaining of going to jail behind a knock and talk or a tap and rap. This method of arresting citizens for marijuana is being used more and more every day by law enforcement. All the people I arrested and all the people emailing me for help made one critical error. They all opened the door for the police. A lot of well-meaning drug reformers and attorneys have instructed citizens to open the door, step out on the porch, and shut the door behind them when confronted with a knock and talk. When I was a narcotics officer, if I could get the person to open the door, I knew I could search their house. I would explain I smelled marijuana, that if they forced me to go get a search warrant, I was going to arrest everybody in the house and seize their home and put them in prison, or they could simply cooperate, sign a consent to search form, and allow me to search. It worked every time. Had they not opened the door for me, I never would have been able to manipulate them into signing a consent to search their home. Tell me about when they wanted you to sign the consent to search form.
See, they came in, said they smelled marijuana, so I had always thought that when they say that meant they could go ahead and search my house. Well, these cops sat down with me and asked me to sign a consent to search. And I said no, was my first answer. Right away I told them no. Well, they didn't really like that, and the nice cops still were trying to talk me into letting them see my plants or whatever. They started off with little things like, well, if we have to get a search warrant, it's just going to make things harder on you. And I still wasn't saying anything. They still kept pressing a little bit, and that's when they started. That's when they said, you know, if we get a search warrant, your wife's going to go to jail, your child's going to be taken away, and you're going to be charged and taken to jail too. So you can either work with us, and most likely, if you really do just have 10, 20, 30 plants, we'll let you go. We're going to get out of your hair. I couldn't stand the thought of my wife going to jail or losing my baby. So I told them everything that I had, that it was all mine, and that I assumed the full responsibility for it.
Remember, cops do not get into any type of trouble if they lose a case in court. If they coerce their way into your house and violate the Fourth Amendment and lose the case, it's no big deal to them. They're not disciplined in any way. A drug seizure is a drug seizure in the eyes of the police, whether it's successfully prosecuted or not.
They tried to act like they were my friends for the most part. They said that that I needed to talk to them, and that they knew there was marijuana in my house. So I told them, well, yeah, that I did have a little bit. I just wanted to be honest with them. I had already messed up by letting them in. So I was just going to be honest with them. They told me, there were three of them, 3 or 4, and 2 of them were pretending to be like my friends. And they were telling me, oh, just show, if you have just a little bit of bud, then we'll let you go, and you can get on with it. It's not going to be a big deal. We're looking for people that are growing at least 100 plants. So I didn't think it was a big deal. So I showed them the little jar I had the bud that I used, and after that he looked at it. He looked at me and he asked me to show him where my plants were, and once again told me that they knew I had between 100 and 150 or even more plants in my house. And that if I had a lower amount, if I had 10, 20, 30, even 40 or 50, that they weren't looking for people like that. They were looking for big people that were doing big, had big grow operations. And they're doing anything in their power to make me feel like they were my friends, and lie to me about it, just
How
so
many
they
plants did you have?
They counted 22, counting I think I had about 2 or 3 that weren't even rooted. They were just little cuttings, but they still counted them as plants.
The best and the only way to win in a knock and talk situation is to never, ever, ever open your door for the police. Just as you're under no obligation to allow any citizen into your home, you're under no obligation to open the door for the cops. If the police had a legal right to be in your home, they wouldn't be knocking, they would be kicking. They would kick the door in and raid your house with a search warrant. The mere fact that they're knocking on your door tells you they don't have a right to be in your home, so don't open the door for them. If you hear a knock at your door and upon investigating, you notice it's the police, if your door is not locked, go ahead and lock it right then. I don't open the door for police. If you need to talk to me, have your dispatcher call my cell phone, or we can yell through the window like this. If you have a search warrant, here are my hands, kick the door in.
And did they let you go like they said?
Of course not. As soon as throughout the whole thing, I had 2 of the cops talking to me, acting like they were my friends, reading my High Times magazines, commenting on how the buds looked, stuff like that, playing with my kids' toys. I didn't know until they were carrying my crap out, even after that I was going to jail, and because the other guys were telling me, oh, you're probably not going to go to jail. As soon as they had done everything, they got everything out of my house, they told me to put my hands behind my back, and they were going to arrest me. I asked them if there was any way that I could just walk out to the truck so my neighbors wouldn't see all this, and they said sorry, no. And they handcuffed me and proceeded to carry me out by the handcuffs, just like I'd hurt somebody or something.
If all of America would use this one piece of advice, to never open your door for a police officer, it would totally neutralize the cops in regards to knock and talks and tap and raps. If you do not open the door, you will not go to jail. Never open the door for the cops, and never get busted.